So, is it possible for a 45-year-old man with an already established career to switch over to creative media? Well, the short answer is yes, but how do you get there? Hey, I'm Jason Hayes, and I'm trying to become a video editor. More specifically, I want to be a video editor for major motion pictures like any kind of movies, Marvel films. Just a quick disclaimer, this video is not a success story. It is a video showing about my journey of how I got up to this point. And though I have made tremendous leaps and bounds, tremendous progress, I'm not quite to the point of being a paid professional video editor yet. Currently, I am a video editor, but I have not gotten into the professional part of video editing as of yet. I'm still working my way into that. I'm still trying to break into the professional market. Most of my work has been in volunteer work and personal projects, so it's all been fairly relative experience. I've wanted to be in creative media ever since I was 16 years old, but it's only been within the last 10 years that I have been trying to take steps in order to get to that place. I'm not saying that it's going to take you 10 years to get into creative media, but that's just how long it's been taking me. Whether like drawbacks, challenges, barriers, mindset changes, there are many hurdles you have to get through in order to get into that kind of field. Just a couple of my own personal hurdles. First of all, I'm 45 years old. So being the fact that I'm 45 years old, I am married. I have just recently become a homeowner within the last year. So now I'm paying for a house. I live in Poquoson, Virginia. Now, this is the Hampton Roads area, talking about Newport News, Virginia Beach, what we kind of locally call the Seven Cities. If anything you know about East Coast, it's not real well known for the video creative media industry. It's more about the shipyard, military, a lot more mechanical industrial work. You don't see people working in the film industry as much. Not saying they're not out here, but the resources are far more limited. Even while going to school, I had asked one of the career coordinators if there was anyone who actually offered internships. Is there any place that we could actually go to develop our career beyond this school in the local area? And her answer was no. So even though there are programs, even though there are schools and opportunities to learn this information here, the ability to move beyond that just doesn't exist, not in this area. And on top of it, I'm also established. I've spent at least 15 years of my life working as some kind of either mechanic or technician, someone who works on machines. So it is a complete 180 pivot point. I remember I was talking to a career choice advisor because, I work for Amazon. They have a career development program. How do I get out of this field? How do I get in creative media? And the crazy thing is they didn't have a way to pivot over to that. And I even had the career advisors tell me, he's like, man, I've never had someone try to get out of this field. People are usually trying to fight to get into your field. And the thing is yes, my field does pay very well, but it's not strictly for the money alone that I'm doing this. I've always wanted to work in creative media. And as of right now, it seems like being a video editor is a good step in. I even spoken to a friend who actually produces visual effects in Los Angeles as a producer. And she had told me that there's a lot more jobs for video editors right now in the market. That caused me to keep my mind kind of focused on that area. And I also feel like it's a little bit easier to get experience editing videos versus doing visual effects, which requires a lot more work. It's a lot more niched. And if you're not already really good at it, it can be hard to keep steady work. At least it seems that way. Again, that is just my opinion. In the meantime, what have I done to build my experience? Well, I went to school. And I'll talk about in another video how I got to that point. But I went to school. I started out at the Academy of Art University, which was a great school. Then, but I was working full time, which made it really hard because when you are going to an art school, they're literally taking you from 0 to 100. They're like literally taking you all the way through the steps and baby stepping you all the way through. As a result, working a full-time job, doing that, I didn't have to pay for any of it because I had the GI Bill, but between working full-time and doing that, I got burnt out really quick because it was a lot of work, even though it was an online platform. And then I pivoted over to the Art Institute, which unfortunately did go under because whatever reason. I've not gone into the research, but I could tell you just from experience going there, they were not a very good art school. It doesn't surprise me that they went under. Now, keep in mind, going to school is not absolutely necessary, but it did help me at least get into familiarity with everything. It did get me familiar with how to use a lot of the softwares that were mainstream at the time, how to edit, how to do graphics, motion graphics. I know these are a lot of foreign terms, but they're important to know. I also did self-education. I had to research the field. I had to look up things on YouTube because when I first started getting into creative media and ultimately right now video editing, I had no clue where to even start. I didn't know what softwares to use. I didn't know whether or not school was going to help me. I knew nothing. I knew nothing at all. I knew nowhere to start. All I had was a magazine that I bought from Barnes & Noble about Cinefex because I always loved movies, and I think my dad got me a few issues of Cinefex, so I was aware of the magazine and a YouTube search engine. Starting my search, one of the people I ran across was Zach King and Aaron. I don't remember Aaron's last name, but I remember he used to go by the YouTube channel, the VFX Pro. Unfortunately, he doesn't really make YouTube videos anymore, which is unfortunate because I really loved his work as a visual effects artist. But I still follow Zach King. Zach King has really pushed himself far into the niche of being a visual effects artist. He does a lot of practical visual effects as well as I know he does some CG work, but not. He really tries to veer away from it, which in turn makes the videos a lot more impressive considering how much is practical effects. But I kind of caught them in their up and coming in YouTube. Now, like, he's leaps and bounds. He has his own company. And that's another thing I'm trying to figure out, whether or not I want to do this or if I want to move on into my own company. And again, these are all decisions. I'm definitely leaning more and more of working independently because I have certain schedule restrictions that not every business is going to be understanding about. But I digress. With the self-education, make sure to ask friends and colleagues. You don't know who knows something about this until you bring the topic up. Don't be afraid to strike up that conversation, to bring it out and about and see what people actually know. See if they know somebody who knows something about it. You would be astounded at how many people around you know something about this and you just never started the conversation because maybe they didn't think you were interested in it or they just never came up. People's conversations tend to be kind of guided around how their relationships are built. Breaking the ice and kind of jumping into that topic can really lead into a roadmap of information. It's kind of like Wikipedia. You don't necessarily want to 100% trust the information that's there, but it's a great starting point to get you to look for something. And I had to ask a lot of friends and colleagues, and I had to ask, and I had learned little bits of information from there. I also had to keep up with current events and trends. You'd be surprised at how much goes into this kind of job field. It's not as just simple as, oh, I made a video and now people want me for the job. No, you actually have to know the deeper parts of this. You got to know algorithms. You got to know where can you fit in. There's going to be jobs out there you didn't even know existed if you had never even, bothered to look for it. Another thing I did is I stopped working at my own pace. When I worked at my own pace, it was always kind of that lollygag. It's like when everything else was more important, when everything else was more like, hey, this needs to get done. Ultimately, all the work for being a video editor kind of fell to the back burner. So, and more than that, when you're comfortable, you don't grow. Growth comes outside the comfort zone. Your growth will come so much slower if you only move at the level of comfort. There has to be a level of discomfort that happens. a small amount of stress is very good at helping you to progress. I mean, I remember at one point I would get stressed out just trying to do 30 seconds of subtitles. And the thing is half the time is generated already. I just had to sit there and adjust the parameters and do some spell checking. I didn't even have to type them all out. And I would still get this overwhelming stress of trying to do it. Now I can just whip them out like nothing because I've done it so many times over and over trying to meet deadlines. Now it's easy. I've gotten faster at it. I get more creative at it. And the more challenges you get thrown at, the more you get to work around the tools, because as a video editor, you're as much problem solving as you are editing a video, because you're trying to make something. And unfortunately, there's going to be so many points when you're making a video that the person you're working for has no idea what this video is going to really be about. They have a vague idea in their head, and you're trying to make that vague idea into something real. And sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. And there's a lot of ambiguous and vague parameters you have to work under as a video editor sometimes. So I got outside my comfort zone. I started following deadlines. I would set my own deadlines when things had to be done. I started prioritizing the work, which means I started making a point in the day when it has to be done, or a point in the week that it has to be done. And if I miss the deadline, well, guess what? Now I need to make the deadline that much more a priority. I start looking for opportunities to squeeze it in and do it. But also, I would push myself. But one of the big points I had to remember is I also have to be careful, because I don't want to push myself to the point of burnout. There were times where I had to pull back in order to avoid the overwhelming stress, because eventually the stress does build up and it does get overwhelming. And during those times, I had to take a step back, take a breath, kind of reset myself, and then eventually kind of move back into it again. What you don't realize is everybody works on a work rest cycle. It doesn't matter whether you're weightlifting, whether you're going to school, whether you're even when you're working a job, there's a reason why there's breaks. It's because human beings operate on a work rest cycle. It's the reason why we sleep at night. We are operational a certain amount of time of the day, and then we actually have to go into shutdown. It's the same thing when we're challenging ourselves. There's a time to stress yourself out, and then there's a time I got to bring it back and kind of take a break from it. And that's true with every single challenge I think I've ever had to take on. I also had to start creating content, sometimes in volunteer work. Sometimes I created content. A lot of times I created content for myself. I did content for YouTube. I do a lot of dad jokes on my Daily Dad Jokes channel, which did show a lot of promise for a long time. As of last year, the algorithm kind of crushed me, so that channel is not growing anymore. I also have done movie reviews on this channel. I started an interior design channel for my wife because she currently does a lot of remodeling in the house, and she has a great skill for interior design, painting, home improvements. I also had to be comfortable with getting in front of the camera right here, right now, because when I'm starting out and I have to create content and I have to have it like an actor or somebody in front of the camera, unfortunately, not everybody is willing to do that. A lot of people are not comfortable with getting in front of a camera, especially not getting in front of a camera for someone else. Every once in a while, I would be able to rope some people in, on a student project or a student film, and they would be like, "Oh yeah, that sounds cool." And they'll be excited for like a day, maybe the first or second time, but you'll see that their priorities will shift very quickly if they're not truly motivated by doing this. If this isn't something they see themselves doing, if this isn't something that's like really important to them, they're going to lose motivation very quickly. And their priorities are going to change, and they're going to want other things from you that you can't offer them. And the best thing you can do is just be transparent. But most of the time, you're just going to end up doing this by yourself in the beginning. From what I can tell, it seems like, at least from other YouTubers and things like that, once you start getting yourself more solidly established, you can start pulling more people in, and they can help you with your videos. They can help you with your work. Until you reach that point of establishment, people don't seem to be real interested in helping you get started. It's really hard to find people who are motivated to work with you, especially when, they're not getting paid, they're having to take extra time out of their life. And it's all understandable. That's why I've had to push myself a lot, because no one is going to help me do this. Not really. I have to kind of do this on my own. But again, another way I did it, I started as a volunteer video editor. I started doing some video edits for volunteer or nonprofit organizations. I was not getting paid, but it did give me a lot of practice and a lot of challenges. And I was part of a team, so they would give me feedback, and that feedback would be very constructive. And that's something I had to remember, is not to get hurt when I get feedback. These videos are not for me. These videos are for somebody else. These videos are for an organization. So the look they need is the look I need to provide. And whatever feedback they give me in order to reach that, I really need to be grateful for, because I don't know. I can't read their mind. So whatever changes I need to make, I just need to do it. And that just adds to the experience. I've done some freelance work, a few jobs here and there, some animation based, some video editing based, some video compositing based. If video compositing, I mean like visual effects, motion graphics. I've done graphic design. I've made logos for people. Never really fully took off with it. It was hard to keep up with it doing a full-time job. And I don't like doing side hustles. Even though I'm doing like this recording right now, I'm doing this when I can. And, I try to fit it in. If I can't fit it in this week, I make a priority to do it next week. It's like a personal deadline. It's kind of a soft deadline, really. But just keeping up with it and seeing the direction it was going, it was just very hard to kind of keep up with that. And doing freelance work, some clients can be a little weird. They'll ask you for some weird stuff. Just be prepared for that. But I've also tried different avenues. I tried like doing professional work. I've tried applying for other jobs. I've even tried multiple times at Amazon to apply for video editor positions, because they do have video editing positions that are open, and open up quite frequently. I'm surprised. Most of them don't even give me the time of day. It would be nice if I could move into a video editing position with Amazon, because then I don't have to worry about like sacrificing my pay scale. I don't have to worry about having to take a step back. With any new career path, a lot of times you have to start from the beginning. But because I'm already established, I can't afford to start at the beginning. I can't afford to wait to start at the bottom and be an unpaid intern, or have my wife support me. Though she does make more money than I do, it would not be enough to support our lifestyle, and it would be a huge burden on her. I can't afford to just blindly take that leap. If I were single and I didn't have all this to worry about, yes, I could pack up, get rid of everything I own, sell everything I own, just make sure I have a car, and just drive out to California and be a production assistant, or to New York or whatever, and start at the very bottom and just, live out on my car for a couple months and just kind of like build myself up from there. But I'm already established. I have someone else to take care of. I have a home. So like starting at that bottom of the barrel, it's just not practical. I would literally have to basically destroy my whole life in order to start over. And I'm not willing to do that. So instead, I'm trying to build myself up to an equal level and then try to move in, which is way harder. But that's kind of some of the things I've had to do. Home support is definitely important. Knowing that they understand why you're doing it, and that they allow you to make that time and to do your work and to prioritize that with you is very important, because otherwise you're constantly fighting this upstream battle of trying to do this, and they don't understand why you're doing it. Networking is paramount. I'm learning more and more that you need to network. No one is self-built. No one is going to win this day and get into this field on their own. They might have to do the work on their own and build up the portfolio on their own, but they're not just going to slide in by themselves. You need to build up a community. You got to get to know people. I remember the other day I was just at the bank and someone started talking about interior design, how she designed everything. And I think she was just making a note. But I took that opportunity to talk to her. One of my friends who's a producer for visual effects, she was one of my teachers at the Academy of Art University, and she was the only one who offered to continue to communicate with us on our career path even after school. And she's been a great help, just giving me tips and trying to point out different ways I can go, different avenues I can reach for. And I could tell she's very curious to see how many of her former students have made it into this field. And I doubt that there are very many, but I'm still like really pushing to get in there even now. I feel like as of recently, this has probably been the hardest I've began to drive forward into this career path because I'm in a comfortable position. I don't struggle financially. So now I need to turn my focus towards trying to cross over into the career without the heavy hitting sacrifice of losing where I'm at. So don't ever be afraid. Don't ever be afraid to strike up random conversations with people. Don't be afraid to meet people at any situation, because you never know who's going to be a friend, who's going to be interested, who's not going to be interested, who's going to continue communicating with you. A good way also is to kind of do the tit for tat kind of thing where you do me a favor, I'll do you a favor. In the beginning, you're probably going to have to do a lot of favors versus making money. At least that's what I've had to do. I've had to do a lot of doing favors versus making money because I'm not at the point yet that I can offer money or receive money for my skill. Or maybe I am and I just don't realize it yet. It's very difficult trying to gauge that when I have no one to compare to. Biggest thing is I just had to start though. Once I started getting the idea of how to make a video, I just started doing it. I didn't need a lot of fancy equipment. Like I got this microphone. This microphone was only $50. And I found it on an art channel. I didn't even find it on a video editor channel. I found it on an art channel. If you've heard about him, the YouTuber is Ergo Josh, and he mentioned about the Ryzen. And so I remembered that and he told me it's very affordable. So I bought it, and this thing right here is about $15. So a total investment of like $65, and I've got a microphone. And I'm not even using a professional camera. I'm using my cell phone. It's an iPhone 14 front-facing camera. And that's what I'm using to film this video. And I have the microphone, which is a USB microphone, plugged into an adapter, which is plugged into my phone. And that's how you're getting this audio right now. So you don't need expensive, fancy equipment. Yes, it's nice. Yes, it will improve the quality of your video, but it's not necessary to start. And so I just started. I just took a tripod and my camera and just started filming. And a lot of times my videos were trash. And the craziest thing was, I think my highest view YouTube video was literally just me talking about scaffolding gloves and looking at my hands and trying to find the perfect scaffolding gloves. 422 views. I mean, granted, there are people who get views all the time. They get thousands, but this was the highest and most viewed video that I had ever created. All I was looking for was scaffolding gloves, which means a lot of people are looking for scaffolding gloves. And all I was doing was sitting there recording my gloves and talking about how I was looking for the best scaffolding gloves. And the answer is I never found it. But at any rate, as of right now, I'm still continuing my journey to try to get into video editing. I'm still applying for jobs. I'm still looking for opportunities. I may even start my own business. And I'm trying to figure that out as of now, but I have made progress. Again, this is not a success story. This is a journey. And so far, I've made a lot of headway, and it seems like I've gained a lot of momentum over especially the last 2 years. Ever since I started doing volunteer video editing, it has kept giving me projects, and it's given me a lot of experience, and it's allowed me to kind of primed my brain to get other content and do other videos. And it's getting to the point now where it's becoming easier and easier to do this. And the best part is the current hiring manager is replying, at least to my messages, because since it's an internal we use Slack at Amazon. We had our own Amazon proprietary messenger, but it just wasn't doing the job. So Amazon has been migrating over to a third party Slack, which a lot of companies use as a means to get communication. And pretty much everyone has switched like as of like 2 years ago, except for like my department. We were one of the ones that were heavy holding on to the Chime app. The point being, I reached out to this hiring manager and she is replying to me, and we're just gonna have to see where it goes from there. I don't know if I'll get in. I don't know if I'll be passed over, but this is the direction I'm going. And while I'm still on Amazon, I'm going to keep applying for those video editor spots until I either get in or find another way in. And the main point of me sharing this is that I know that eventually I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to be in a video editing field, because I'm not going to stop till I get there. But the question is am I going to remember all of this? Am I going to remember all the struggles? I mean, this whole effort has been off and on for over 8 years. And then the last 2 years, I've been really kind of pushing forward, really developing my skill, getting into the video editing field, even on a volunteer level. I think a lot of what has taken me so long is because I kind of wavered back and forth. I couldn't always afford the software. But now it's just getting to the point that there are so many resources in order to even practice video editing. There's almost no excuse not to be able to at least try, because you can even video edit on your iPad or your phone now. You don't necessarily have to have a fancy laptop to start practicing being a video editor. I mean, CapCut, even on a mobile app, is one of the most robust, I would say the most versatile, and one of the most intuitive video editing softwares out there that in a way even challenges Adobe and a lot of other video editors, even though you could tell it's definitely geared more towards social media use. It has a lot of stock videos and stock music built into it that you can just bring right onto your timeline. It's just too many tools out there now that you almost don't even need a laptop anymore to be a video editor, to be in creative media. And it's just a matter of just starting. And at this point, almost everyone has a phone. So you basically have a whole media studio right in your pocket. It's just a matter of taking the time to do it. And like stuff like this microphone, that came later as I learned more and more about how important the quality of sound is. As I continue this journey, I hope you guys will continue to watch, and hopefully this helps somebody who's also trying to get into video editing, also understands some of the struggles we're getting into, and also understands what it's like to have to be a middle-aged person trying to transfer whole careers into a completely unrelated career. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you later.